So thank you everybody for being here. We have a lot of people that will be on this call. I know some of you were on our call that we did on Sunday. Because we have a lot more folks joining us today, we have to do the registration process. So we appreciate everyone being patient with us and going through that registration process. There is capacity on this conference line, and that again is another reason why we just needed to make sure that everyone registered. We're going to try to continue to mute all, but if you guys can all just make sure you've muted your phone, mute your computers, so we don't have all that background noise. Also, if you're on your computer, please mute your camera so that we're not seeing your video camera during the presentation. That will also share when we share the video. So please mute your camera. I understand there may be a little bit of echoing. I'm getting some text messages here, so hopefully we will get that under control. Just want to do some housekeeping notes. We, again, as I mentioned, please keep yourself on mute throughout this call so we're not hearing all that background noise. There is an option to use the chat feature. You'll see that in the upper right-hand corner of your computer. That will share with everyone. We will try to get to as many questions as we can throughout the presentation. You'll find that we're going to be answering some of the questions that you guys have. So if you can just hang tight with your questions until we're on that subject, we're probably going to answer most of your questions. Otherwise, we'll get to a Q&A session at the end here. But if you just go ahead, also, we do have some of the folks that we have on the call will be able to address some of those questions as they're appearing in the chat. I think that's all I have from my side as far as housekeeping rules. So we're pretty much ready to get started. Jennifer is presenting the screen today. So I think, Jennifer, if we're able to just to go on to the next slide, there we go, just to see who everybody is. So again, we've got Scott Dolch, our Executive Director from the Connecticut Restaurant Association, who will be presenting today. Also helping to support us today will be Nicole Griffin, our CRA contract lobbyist with Powers, Griffin & Hill, and Ryan O'Donnell, our CRA legal counsel with Siegel, O'Connor, O'Donnell, Beck. Sorry, having trouble speaking this morning. And then, of course, our CRA education manager, Jennifer Conkling-Schmidt, who will be presenting some information to you on ServSafe this morning. So thank you to all of our webinar speakers who are here today, and thank you for all of you again for being on this call. We will have the recording available after this call. Please be patient. It takes a long time. This is a really big file, so it takes us several hours before it renders and fully uploads. As soon as we have that available, we will get that link back out to you. I know there are a lot of people on your teams couldn't be on this call this morning, so you'll be able to share that video. So moving on, I think we're going to have Scott Dolch join us and just give us a little intro of where we're at and what we'll be covering today. Scott?
All right, thank you, Yvette. Hello, everybody. Good morning. I know some of you guys were on our call earlier in the week on Sunday. I really appreciate you guys taking the time here this morning. Before we get into kind of everything right now, just know from where I sit and obviously my team, it's actually, I know you guys had to take away your screenshots, but it's actually good to see some of your faces through this time and know what you guys are going through. So my job today is, with our team here, is to try to provide you guys as much update as we have. Unfortunately, I don't have all of the answers. I'm trying to get them as fast and as furious as I can, and asking as many questions that you guys have, trying to relay those, whether that's to the governor's office or down to our federal government, and so on and so forth. So Nicole, I don't think is back on the call yet. Nicole actually just had to hop off. She's in a conversation with the governor's chief of staff right now, and hopefully she'll be back on. So I'm going to try to take the lead with her right now on this kind of first slide and a couple other slides. So this first slide is, oh, hi, Nicole. Welcome back. Just a timeline of where we are. Obviously, about 11 days ago, we had the closure of on-premise dining with the executive order from the governor here in Connecticut, and how that impacted you and your businesses. Moved into the last Thursday with the addition of alcohol sales. And then obviously the next day on Friday, the governor putting out a stay safe, stay at home policy in the essential businesses, with restaurants staying essential through this process. And then yesterday, late last night, there was a new executive order put out, 7N, I believe it is. If you guys don't mind putting your phones on mute and your computers on mute, if you don't mind with the background noise, thank you. There was restrictions on restaurant payment and pickup operations is kind of the text, but I want to turn it, before I turn over to Nicole, we'll go right back to that. But then obviously I have that May 1st deadline. People have just asked me what the executive order was back on the 16th of closing on-premise dining. It was through April 30th. So obviously I just put that out there. Obviously there's nothing been confirmed, but that is what the executive order stated to us. We would love to move that date up, but at the same time, I just wanted you guys, some of you guys have been asking, well, is there even a timeline or anything else? But the executive order that was on the 16th that came out showed that. So Nicole, if you want to take just a quick rundown of your conversations with the governor's office and the added executive order last night.
Sure. Thanks, Scott. Morning, everyone. So last night, the governor's office issued another executive order, and in that they added a piece that really is just encouraging more social distancing. The language they use is where practical to do XYZ, and it talks about using certain kinds of computers for transactions, people standing so far apart, those kinds of things. There's no directive in there, there's no mandate in there. It's really just some smart guidance for people to continue to do social distancing. So if anyone hears about you know, a new mandate that you can't go in restaurants to pick up food, that's not the case. That's not the intention there. Sometimes we've seen some local departments of health take things to the next level that is not included in the governor's executive order. So if you hear about that, you know, let us know, shoot Scott or me an email, and we'll try to get involved and help out. Towns can, of course, have more restrictive guidelines for restaurants in their own specific towns or health districts, but if they're using the governor's executive order as their reason to say you can't go into restaurants to pick up food, that's not the case. So just let us know if that happens, and we'll do our best to help.
Thank you, Nicole. Just kind of, so yeah, so please communicate with us if you're having challenges. Obviously, you've gotten a lot of emails this morning and questions in regards to that. And just making sure you know that as long as you guys are doing a great job of doing the best you can through this crisis, especially with the takeout, curbside delivery, taking care of your staff, and all of those areas. So if we just want to, and I probably should put the slides in order. So we'll go to the next slide real quick, if you don't mind, Jennifer. Ryan O'Donnell here is on the call as our legal counsel. We had this slide last time. I just wanted to reiterate for some of the folks that weren't on it, and kind of turn over to Ryan just on some of the questions we've gotten from employers, as well as the employer just on unemployment. So Ryan, are you there?
I'm here, Scott, thanks. So the CRA has been, first of all, good morning for everybody. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. Thanks, Scott, for having me on. With regard for our unemployment, you know, there's been a lot of work between employees and employers to kind of to work through some of these issues. I think employers have been more than willing to help out their employees, and that's made things a lot easier. There's the unemployment application process is fairly straightforward. There's a video on the CRA website that can walk you through that. There's also the shared work program, which is being offered by the Connecticut DOL. This has been another key program because it basically allows employers to keep folks on for partial hours, reduced hours, and still collect partial unemployment. The state's working with employers to give them every opportunity to continue to employ folks and avoid layoffs. And this is another means of doing that. Finally, on the unemployment layoff side of things, Scott, we've had a lot of questions about the WARN Act, which is required for businesses with 100 or more employees. It's also has to do with the number of employees at each specific site. However, generally speaking, the WARN Act allows for waivers during times of economic emergency. This is certainly a time of economic emergency. So with regard to the WARN Act layoffs, the primary issue there is giving notice to employees. Normally it's a 60-day notice. Presently, if you're going to be conducting layoffs, you just need to give your employees a notice as soon as possible. And that would be under the emergency provisions and exceptions of the WARN Act. So that's my thought, is that you're going to be giving folks notice, not being held to the 60 days, but notice as soon as possible.
Thank you, Ryan. And just staying on this slide real quick for a second too, and understanding we've received a lot of questions, not only from you as employers, but obviously the employees. I mean, as of, I think yesterday, over 120,000 Connecticut residents have applied for unemployment. I know they were putting out stats that you should take 3 days to receive your compensation or receive word back. It's now saying could take as long as 3 weeks or longer. I'll get into a little more detail how this would be impacted with the federal stimulus at the end, but we just wanted to make sure this slide was up there. Ryan's contact information, as well as all of ours, will be here at the end of this, end of the program. If you've got individual questions or things that on the shared work to the WARN Act to, we had a video that was posted through our Facebook group as well. So, but we're trying to give you guys as much information as we know as it becomes available through the unemployment piece. So we want to make sure we kept that slide. So going into the next slide, I just wanted to turn this over to Jennifer Conklin-Smith as our educational manager. She manages not only our foundation, but also ServSafe. And we got some word yesterday from ServSafe on a couple things. So I want to turn it over to Jennifer. Jennifer.
Hey everyone. Just a couple things on ServSafe. So they have put out 2 free videos regarding food safety and specifically takeout and delivery for training options. They're about 10-minute videos, and you can find them either on servsafe.com or on our website. I updated our ServSafe page, so I'll show you that real quick. Let's see. So we have here, it's the ServSafe takeout delivery, and then so you register here for both of those, and it's available in English and Spanish. And then the other thing is that they have made ServSafe Food Handler free as an option now through April 30th. Food Handler is about a 90-minute online course. It comes with a certification, and it is something that all of your employees can take. It's sort of an entry-level food safety course. So it's not Manager, which is your full 8-hour course, which gives you your Certified Food Protection Manager, QFO certification, but it is a good opportunity for all of your employees to get this, especially right now, while ServSafe Manager is not available. So that's a good opportunity. If anybody has any questions specifically about ServSafe, you can let me know. We have put all of our classes on hold for right now, but as soon as we are able, we will be resuming those. Ron, I see your question about having trouble with the videos. I will definitely reach out to our people and let them know about that.
Thanks, Jennifer. I think, you know, I would obviously the 2 videos with ServSafe obviously being free, and we're going to promote those out to the masses, to everybody here today, now that we have this information. So Ron, it's a great question. We want to make sure these videos are working, these 10-minute videos. But obviously I've gotten calls, as you can imagine, from public health departments and first selectmen's, mayors, just asking. I mean, you guys go above and beyond as it is with food sanitation and your staff and everything else. So I would just recommend, you know, definitely taking the 10 minutes to watch those videos. If you're doing both of those, or obviously just take out if you're doing delivery as well, or making sure you're just continuing to I know you guys are already going and doing as much as you can, but we definitely appreciate ServSafe in this time of having these 2 opportunities that are there. And then obviously the food handler piece, so you guys know as well, it is not a mandate of our state. I don't see it coming down the line, but there are some states actually around us where everybody working or touching food has to have that food handler certification. There is typically a cost to that. So having that free for the month of April, I think, is huge. for ServSafe to give that out, because obviously we can't do the manager classes, especially with the restrictions that we currently have on the gathering pieces and meetings and things like that for the time being. So moving on to our next slide. Some of our slides, it looks like getting cut off a little bit, but it's totally fine. Just kind of giving you guys an update. All right, so we sent this out yesterday. You guys are aware that the Connecticut Department, DECD, the Department of Economic Development, of Community Development, put together these bridge loans. So these bridge loans are, a maximum of $75,000. There's zero interest loans. You can apply right now. We sent an email out. We put it up on our website through social media the minute it went live. And you have to have 100 or less employees, to be able to be eligible for this process. We know that they've got an influx of applications, and how that process is going to work. Nicole and myself have had many conversations with legislators over the last couple of days, knowing once this program launched, but the impact that it has on how many people are applying based on the 25 million. The 25 million is what they just had to start the program. We are obviously hoping, that they're going to continue to possibly use money from the rainy day fund or others to backfill this, to help you guys with these bridge loans. Obviously, questions I typically get is, does this mean the same thing with the SBA loans? Can I go after both? This is a state loan program. This has nothing to do with the SBA federal loans. So, you can apply for this and you can apply. We can talk about the SBA loans in a little bit. But obviously, we definitely applaud the governor's office and David for getting this thing started. But, my messaging to them and obviously to everyone else is, it's a good start. But obviously, knowing how many small businesses there are in Connecticut, there's so much ask and there's so much need. And we're hoping that there'll be more updates on this program and the feedback from the DECD on what else we can do. But please make sure if you haven't applied, you click that link. It's pretty simple, goes through the process steps, what you need to be able to provide. If you need any help or assistance, please reach out to us, and we will try to help in any way that we can. I'm just kind of looking at quick questions as we go through, but we'll answer some at the end. So that's the DECD loan, and then just keep moving on. Jennifer, if you don't mind. Other issues facing restaurants. This is kind of a slide we've had. Obviously, I know a lot of you guys are talking about business interruption insurance, and the biggest thing is with this is one of the things we've asked of the governors as well as federally is some backing program or grant program to help support this. It's still a topic of discussion that we have. Unfortunately, it hasn't, even in the federal stimulus package, there's really nothing in that about the business interruption insurance. I know that we use it in phases. This is called the phase 3 of a bill on a federal level, and then they're still working on phase 4, business interruption insurance. And I know how that impacts you guys with your policies and everything else. But the challenge of the business interruption, which I brought up last Sunday, is the way most policies are written is you have to have physical damage to your restaurant, not economical damage, but like weather related, hurricanes, things like that. And that's really where there's a lot of challenge with this, and why, the other stimulus package, which I'll get into here later on in the call, hopefully can help offset that. But I know it's a question I get constantly from you guys on this. And it's not something we don't take lightly. We're continuing to talk about the impact and the insurance you guys pay on a regular basis to run your business and to try to get the support. So that is obviously the first topic. On other issues, you guys ask questions, so I want to give you guys an update there. The state sales tax, I think it's the number one question that we're being asked, and we understand why. It was our lead-in with our letter to the governor over the weekend, and our action alert, besides the fact of these grants and loans that the state has at least started with these loan programs. As an update right now, we don't have a lot of update outside of, we know that the governor knows and has heard loud and clear. I think we've had over 1,100 people send messages to the governor on this ask. We also know, as of this morning, I know New York has deferred sales tax payments, but as of this morning, we got word that Massachusetts looks to be doing the same. We are going to continue that pressure, and we ask each of you, if you haven't done our action alert, to send that letter and send a note, or reach out to your state rep, your state senator directly and put that pressure on. We know that that payment is coming up here at the end of the month, and we don't want you to be penalized or the interest or whatever that might occur. And we are trying to do everything in our power to continue to talk to the governor and his team, as well as legislative leaders on the sales tax piece. So that's, unfortunately, it's not the greatest update I want to give you guys, but at the same time, you know, I do think Governor Baker up in Massachusetts moving forward with some things this morning, hopefully will continue to help us in our conversations of showing, hey, that we're not just asking for something that no other states are doing. Our states around us are doing this, and we know how important those dollars or that payment could be to you staying open for takeout or possibly having to close because not being able to make that payment. So I just want to kind of give you guys that update on sales tax. We will continue to keep you guys posted as we move forward throughout today and the weekend. Yep.
Sorry, it's Nicole. I just want to interrupt for a second and bring up something that was just brought to my attention. For those, back to the Connecticut DECD bridge loans, for those of you that are going to apply for those loans, they do require a lot of information and for you to provide a lot of paperwork to them. They are telling you once you do that, you have 7 days to submit the required documents to DECD, and after that time, your application will be nullified. So you just want to make sure if you do go ahead and apply for these loans that you have everything in order and you get it to them in a timely fashion, because I'd hate to see people not get it because they didn't get things within 7 days. So thanks, Vasi, for pointing that out.
Yeah, and then Nicole, do you want to give any other updates on sales tax? I know I don't want to try to steal your thunder. I know you talked.
No, there's unfortunately no thunder to be stolen on that one. We're just putting a lot of pressure on the administration and legislative leaders to forgive is our ask. Of course, deferment would be something that would be acceptable, as well as we're trying to we're hitting the date where people have to pay their sales tax. We're looking to stretch out any forgiveness or deferral for a few months. We know how hard it is for people to come up with this kind of cash right now. So as soon as we have an answer, we'll let people know.
Thank you, Nicole. And then just the other questions that are on here, utilities we talked about. Obviously, there's if you're having any challenges with any of your utility companies, but we know from Eversource and UI and some of the others have deferred payments and are helping and working with you. And we know some of the other smaller, gas companies, things like that, have seemed to be being helpful through this process. But if you are having any challenges or hearing anything, please reach out to us. So we can try our best to try to help you on the utilities piece. The filing for federal and state taxes, you guys obviously saw that move back to July 15th. Vendors, big question. I know on the liquor piece to food purveyors, everything else that's out there. We are kind of similar to the utilities. We're trying to work with everybody here as best we can as an association to see how we can work together. We're all in this together and trying to help you guys stay afloat during this crisis and being able to reopen your doors and obviously pay off those payments. So, it's something that I'm trying to have as an association with some of the vendors, as well as the governor and legislative leaders. But just want you guys to know it's continued conversations, seeing where we can defer, payments and things of that nature to the vendors as well. Mortgage loans, I guess at least the initial conversation, if you own your property and you're paying a mortgage on it as opposed to a rent or lease, and you'll have a landlord. If you haven't already, I would recommend reaching out to your lender, having that conversation. We've heard some great stories of banks here around the state that are working with our restaurants in this time of need, whether that's deferring payments, pushing off principal payments, maybe extending it on the back end of the mortgage, things of that nature that are really helping them in that time. So I would recommend you reach out to your lender specifically and start having those conversations and those questions. At the end of the day, they hopefully don't want to see you have to close down and can't reopen, and you're never going to be able to pay that mortgage and default on it. So having those conversations with your lender is something that we ask. We will talk a little bit about this in the federal loan piece as well. But I think the same should be held true for your rent or lease with your landlord. I know I've heard horror stories to positive stories with that, but I think, the same thing is, as you guys are looking at your bills, and I can only imagine the stress you guys are going through, but, having those conversations with your landlord on those pieces of how, what you can do right now and how you can defer. And those I have seen some really good signs of some of the landlords and the larger companies helping relieve with some relief support. So I just ask of you guys, and we will talk about a little of these two elements because they do tie into the federal loan program that's going to be eligible here once the House signs it. But I at least wanted to bring those up as topics. Property tax, I've been asked about it. I know the governor did move that and said, listen, that's a town by town, that's a first selectman mayor piece. But at the same time, it's something that's definitely on our radar that we're talking about, because I know how you guys pay your property tax, how that's affected. Just kind of looking at the largest expenses you guys have during this crisis and how we can help alleviate, defer, whatever that we can do. So if there's other things that we're not hitting, but please let me know. Just let me know what else, you guys might have questions on the side that I see kind of popping up. But I just wanted to at least bring up the attention that we understand the payments. We're listening loud and clear. We're trying to do everything in our power, whether it's from a state level, a federal side, or even with some of our vendors to try to help you guys in this time of need, because it's an uncharted territory for everybody, and obviously trying to work together so we can all get through this and get back to hopefully as close to business as usual whenever we do reopen our doors. So I just wanted to talk about those other issues. If you've got other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Next slide, Jennifer.
You guys still there? I think I lost you.
Scott, we can't hear you.
Hello, yes.
Hold on 1 minute. We're texting Scott.
Got it.
I'm sorry, everybody. For some reason, my internet just completely dropped. So I'm back. I apologize. This is a system that's new to us, so I really apologize to everybody that I don't know where I might have got cut off, but it looks like we're on the updated just from national. So
Scott, it was as soon as I went to the new slide, so if you can just start right over.
perfect. Thanks, Jennifer. All right, so on a federal update and support. So we talked about this a little bit on Sunday. So understand that there's been what they call 3 phases. If you guys don't mind just muting your phone if you came back. So the biggest thing right now, guys, is there's been thank you. There's been 3 bills or 2 bills that have passed, a third that's gotten through the Senate. So the first bill we talked about is that emergency spending bill that was back on March 5th. The second bill, which we're going to go into a little bit of detail after this slide, the Families First Coronavirus Response Act that goes into effect on April 1st, which was passed on March 19th and signed by the president. And then the third, the big one that everyone obviously wants some answers on, and I'm going to try to give as many as I can right now. But I have tentative date of a signature of today. That's what we're hoping. The Senate passed is late into the night on Wednesday. It's a $2 trillion plus stimulus package for the economy. It passed late Wednesday night, and we're expecting a vote in the House today. I don't have my national news up to kind of see what's going on down there, but we don't have any worry that it won't pass. It's just a little bit of the challenges with the House members not really being in DC and having to get 218 positive votes and how that process is going to work. So unfortunately, just trying to get that update from national. So the biggest thing too is I'll go into as best I can the COVID bill, what we call Bill 3, Phase 3 of the bill, the CARES Act. But first, I want to turn it over to Ryan, because I just want to update everybody. You have questions. We've gotten a lot of questions on the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. So I want to let Ryan, if you're there, if you didn't get cut off, if you want to give an update to everybody, just kind of, this is a sheet that we'll provide to you as well. We have a one-sheeter that Ryan put together. We'll send it out to everybody that was on the call on just the information on this Response Act. So Ryan, you there?
I am, Scott. Thank you. So just a quick overview of the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. There's going to be two components to it. The first is a emergency paid sick leave. And that's going to apply to private sector employees with fewer than 500, private sector employers, with fewer than 500 employees. There's a list of 6 different qualifying events there. And they further divide those events into there's 1, there's 2, there's 3. Those have compensation limits of $511 per day or $5,110 in the aggregate. The bottom 3, which are 4, 5, and 6, have a limit of $200 a day and $2,000 in the aggregate. 80 hours total, so 2 weeks of regular work. The one question that we've had a lot is, can employers force employees to use other types of leave before using this leave? And the answer is no. There's a notice posting that, Scott, have we sent around the notice posting? Do we have it?
Yeah, here, you want to, the notice is actually right here, so everyone can see it. This is a poster that we'll provide via email as well. That, I mean, it talks about where do I post this notice, and obviously if there's a teleworking piece, and then also, do I share this notice with recently laid off individuals? No. This act requires, only this notice apply to your current employees. So I know that's a lot of questions that we get from everybody, but yeah, this is the actual PDF that would have to be put in a conspicuous location for you. So go ahead, Ryan. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Scott. Thank you for showing that. And then the second part of this phase 2 bill is the expansion of the Family Medical Leave Act. So this FMLA expansion is going to apply to employees who have been employed with you for 30 calendar days. This allows them to take up to 12 weeks of leave under the FMLA to care for a son or daughter who's under the age of 18 if their school or place of care has closed, or the normal child care provider is unavailable, all due to COVID-19. The first 10 days of this FMLA are unpaid. The employee can use the paid 80 hours to substitute in there. And then after the 10 days are up, the employee under this expanded medical leave can get 2/3 of the regular pay, capped at $10,000 in the aggregate. There are going to be some exceptions to this law. It's going to be small businesses with fewer than 150 employees where the imposition of such requirements would, quote, jeopardize the viability of the business as a going concern. That's a lot of words, and we're still waiting for more guidance from the Secretary of Labor on that. The last 2 days, the Department of Labor has released guidelines, and we expect them to be putting out more today and in the near future that can help us answer some of these questions. So we don't have all the answers right now. And that is because the Secretary of Labor and the Department of Labor have not decided to share those with anyone yet. So we're working on getting additional information so we can provide more guidance to you. Notably, there's going to be some safe harbor provisions, or there's going to be, in terms of enforcement, for 30 days. They're going to be more lenient on the enforcement. And again, we're looking for more guidance on that as well, but it looks like they'll be, as long as employers can show a good faith attempt to abide by these new laws, there'll be a 30-day waiver of civil penalties.
Thank you, Ryan. And just looking on the right side with some of the questions. Yes, Dave, Dave just asked, do you have to be working to get paid sick leave? Yes, you have to be currently employed. If you were laid off, you are not eligible. It has to be a current employee for the employer.
Correct.
Kind of moving on to, yes, and as Jennifer this flyer right here, just want to make sure you guys know you can download it. We have it up on our website. We will email it out so you guys have it to be able to post directly off of ctrestaurant.org. All right, third bill. coronavirus, I guess, CARES Act, this $2 trillion stimulus package. I'm going to do my best, but I will say everyone on this call, as well as all of our members and even non-members, we're going to send an email out. There's going to be a couple different webinars from the National Restaurant Association. They're hosting one today at 3 p.m. That they're going to have their public affairs team kind of give kind of an overview of this and some questions that are asked. There's a million questions that I'm getting. And I'm going to try my best right now, but I can't answer all of them. Obviously, the bill hasn't even been passed the House yet, how it's going to affect you. But I do want you guys to know, like, we're trying to give you guys as much information now so you're prepared. So this passed the Senate late Wednesday night. In the stimulus package, there's a lot of other things besides these. There's obviously the unemployment increase. There's other increases as well to kind of stimulate the employee base, but also from an employer side, a small business. I know we had the disaster SBA loans. Those are still eligible if you've applied, but what they've added to this is a $349 billion program. The SBA will be offering, but there's called 7A loans, if you've heard of those in the past. Or PPP loans, Paycheck Protection Program. It is a different loan than the disaster loan, making sure that you know they're kind of two different. You cannot have both. If you have one versus the other, you can't, obviously as you kind of look through this, I would encourage you to talk to your accountant or reach out to us. We can try to help you in this process. But there's still a lot of questions that we don't fully have answers to, and National is actually going to be working on a larger webinar, hopefully Monday or Tuesday next week, with the Vice President of the SBA. That's going to hopefully try to answer these questions. So before we get into fully the PPP side, the other things that are in here, excuse me, the agreement offers restaurant owners relief in the form of net operating loss carrybacks, delay of payment of employer payroll taxes, employee retention tax credit, also QIP, the qualified improvement property. If you guys remember the 39-year, the clerical error in the bill and the tax bill a couple years ago, instead of 15 years on depreciation, it was moved to 39 as a clerical error. This has been fixed if this bill passes as well. But really, I know your guys' questions are driven on the loan questions. And if you go to the next slide, Jennifer, I'm going to try to kind of break it out as best I can, of what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing. So let's start with the disaster loan, which you guys could apply for, already have applied for. It's up to $2 million that you can get in a loan amount. The interest rate is 3.75. The covered period is January 31st to the end of the year. You can use it to anything really related to COVID-19. The big one there is loan forgiveness. There is no loan forgiveness on the SBA disaster loan. There's $50 billion right now that's been put in there. And I think it got bumped up with this new package to add a little bit more money into there. That's the disaster loan side that everybody still has an eligibility to go after if you'd like to, up to $2 million, and use that through this crisis. The 7A Paycheck PPP loan, it's up to 10 million. It's capped though at 2.5 times your monthly payroll. So let's just use just simple math. If your payroll is $100,000 a month, if you're a larger operation, you'd be able to take a max amount of $250,000 on the loan. So understanding that's as much as you can take out. It's a maximum if you on the interest rate that a lender can, I'll get into lender in a second, is 4%. It obviously could be lower depending on the lender, but the max it can put on you is a 4% interest rate. The time frame, the covered period for this is a lot smaller. It's February 15th through June 30th. The use of the proceeds. So again, trying to answer the questions as best I can from the knowledge that I have, how it's been written as of coming out of the Senate. If you got this loan, you could use it to bring your people back on staff, even though you're not possibly open for a time period. You could use it for payroll. You can use it for operating costs of rent, mortgage interest, not obviously mortgage. So I apologize, it might be a typo there. And any interest on previous incurred debt. And the big answer to the difference between the two loans is there forgiveness? The answer is yes. However, the details of that are still trying to be worked out, and the conversations of, I know you guys maybe had, let's take round numbers, you had 100 people on staff, you went down, now you only have 10 doing takeout. What do you have to bring back to be able to forgive? How much can you forgive? Can I use it for other things? Obviously it's an 8-week period once the origination of the loan. I don't want to go into too much detail for you guys. I know I'm seeing a boatload of questions on the side. However, I want you guys to know, in my opinion, it is a good thing. It's not just payroll. You can use it for mortgage interest. You can use it for rent. You can use it for utilities interest as well and things of that nature. So there is ways to use these dollars. However, there's still so much devil in the details of how you would apply to how you would receive it. So the other thing about applying, the difference between the two loans, or especially how this PPP program is going to be put together, it's really going to be driven by lenders. So it'll be banks, credit unions, things like that, that'll be able to offer you these loans. And then they will work with you on providing the information back to SBA on the forgiveness piece to it. They feel that by doing that with the lenders, you can get the money faster, you can get the approval faster, and it kind of expands kind of the staff of the SBA across the country using the banks as the lenders with these PPP loans. So that's really, I guess, 30,000 foot view of the difference between the two loans. Obviously, going back to, you're not going to be eligible to collect, to take out a loan for either. There is no the application process for the PPP loans, the bill hasn't passed yet. So, we're just trying to get the information as it becomes available. We're trying to work with our accountants that work on our team, as well as some of our lenders that we know, just to make sure that once we're ready and we know what's going on. And I'm going to get more information from National this afternoon, as well as hopefully throughout the weekend and into early next week. I'm just kind of quickly looking at some of the questions. I feel like 30 questions have popped up. If you applied for the disaster loan, can you still apply for the 7A? Will it slow the process? Great question. Right now that we know that no one, I don't believe anyone's gotten an answer on your disaster loan. If it's still in the system, obviously that's going to probably take a little bit of time. And I think that SBA is aware of this process, that once they went out first with the disaster loans, and now they're going to try to have these. So there's going to be a lot of people trying to switch over if they think the 7A PPP is a better opportunity for them. So I believe you're going to be able to apply for both, but obviously you're not going to be able to accept both. So I don't know the answer to that question specifically, Vincent, but I will at least say to you that yes, you're going to be able to apply, but you're not going to be able to receive loans from each. And how that process, and if it's going to slow the process, I'm hoping to have more answers either later today or throughout the weekend. Dave, who gets the 4% back the interest? That's a great question. I'm assuming possibly the banks have taken this on in the loan side of not getting the forgiveness. But again, still open conversations and questions I don't have a direct answer for. Other questions, PPP loan seems like a better deal than a bridge loan from the state. Again, as the executive director, I'm never going to give you guys business advice. I think what I'm trying to do is provide you with all the different resources that are currently available or hopefully going to become available as this new bill passes. The bridge loan to the disaster loan to these PPP loans, there could be something new. And as we're already talking about a phase 4 bill federally beyond this phase 3 bill that we need help for and things of that nature. So all I'm trying to do is to give each one of you guys on the call here, all of our members, non-members, as much resources as we can. But again, you need to consult with your accountant, some of these things on your legal team, everything else to kind of make the best decisions for your business. And my hope is, one of these opportunities is going to help you and hopefully get you through this crisis and get you back open and get your staff back hired. So I want you guys to know that this is the much information as I have right now. I wish I had more, but you will get more as it becomes available. Excuse me. So I know there's kind of more questions that are coming up, and I'll continue to take those, but I don't want to get too much more into the weeds on these PPP loans or these disaster loans than I know of right now. I just wanted to kind of give you guys my sense after the last probably 24 hours of what I've received from National. I will also send you guys a summary. The National Restaurant Association did a really good job in a 3-page summary of summarizing this Senate bill that talks about this information. It talks about, QIP. It talks about some other things. It tries to answer some of your frequently asked questions. They're also working on more information to give you, but we will share that document with everybody because we think it's a huge viable piece of information as well that can help you answer even more questions. So, all right, so just before we go to the next slide, can business owners apply for unemployment? Kind of going back to the unemployment question. I think self-employed and all that has been opened up in this process. I don't know if in the initial unemployment piece, but I know there's some language that was put into the Senate bill. I haven't got a chance to fully go through it, but looking in the summary, but I do think that employees are going to be eligible. And I don't want to turn this over to Ryan, but Ryan, you thinking I'm right and correct in my assumption with that of what we've looked at?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct. Scott. Yeah.
Scott, really quick, while we are on this topic, we had a question come into the organizers. Are we still supposed to apply through SBA or individual lenders?
SBA still for the disaster loan. We do not know the application process. I know that I've received like old 7A loan sheets that how they were done in the past, but if you're going to have to go directly to the lender, an answer to a question I don't have yet. So as soon as we know, you will know, and you know whether that's so. I guess I also lead with, you know, as we try to provide you guys these resources, whether it's a webinar, an email, our Facebook group, whatever that it might be. We didn't even start with this, but going back to that, I encourage everybody on this call to make sure you're using every piece of resource as you can. If you did our action alert, which is text protect CT to 52886, you would receive a text. If you just go to your search of your text messages, because you probably all did the action alert, you should have a text from the number 52886. You can search that number. It should say, do you want to receive text messages from the Connecticut Restaurant Association? Make sure you reply yes to that. I will not bombard you with text, but I can promise you as soon as the DECD thing went live, I have 420 people now on that text alert. I know you guys check your cell phones a lot more than an email and go onto a website, but we're trying to provide you guys as much resources and the quickest way to get in contact with you as we can. So please do that. Take advantage of that text alert process we just started this week, but also obviously we'll send out emails. We will continue to post it on our website. We have the Facebook group, Connecticut Restaurants Collaborative, which Yvette is running. You know, Jennifer is managing our website. Emily's kind of managing our social media as we put this stuff up and promoting it. So just wanted to make sure you guys know that, you know, I'm trying to answer the questions as they come through as best I can. But to your question, Jennifer, from someone, I do not know the direct answer yet of how you would apply for a PPP loan yet. As soon as I know, you will know. Just looking at some of the other questions on the side. Unemployment merit rating. I've seen this question come up before. Yes, that's been talked about from us from the beginning on how it's going to affect your unemployment merit rating down the line. This isn't just a Connecticut issue. This is across the country. We were asked to close by the government, and we were not forcing people of that. So I can promise you that that conversation has already started and will continue to be through this process. That not only do we need to make sure we take care of the employees, but we need to be taking care of the employers as we get through this. So we will continue to stay on that from a state level all the way up through a federal level on how that's going to impact your business once we get through this. Let's go to Ryan, do you want to take a stab at that before we go to this other stuff? The question on FMLA would not affect businesses with under 50, that exemption piece. I know there's still a lot of questions that we have with that as well. Do you want to try to answer that question as best you can?
So right now the language is it technically applies. There's the possibility of the Secretary of Labor exempting businesses that are under 50, if we can demonstrate that the imposition of the new leave requirements will basically have a tremendously detrimental impact on the business. How that process is going to be done, that's where the devil's in the details, and I'm sure most of you are sick of hearing us say that the details are coming, but you know, that's all we can say at this point, because the language of the law, the actual text, says that the Secretary of Labor may carve out exemptions for those small businesses, for those folks with 50 or less employees. However, we're just not getting a lot of guidance at this point. You know, hopefully by the time this law goes into effect, we'll be able to provide more issue there. I certainly believe that they will be exempted, but I'm trying to be as cautious as possible. In terms of saying that yes, you'll all definitely be exempted. So we're going to wait for more guidance from the Secretary of Labor on that.
Thank you, Ryan. And I think that's the other piece to this, as you guys know, information is coming out at us a million miles an hour from federal to state to, we're trying to do everything we can to realistically try to get you guys the information is accurate. I mean, that's the hardest thing right now, is trying to make sure it's accurate information and factual information. And that's obviously been a challenge for us as an association, is to make sure that we are giving you guys proper guidance or information, or getting questions that you guys have answered to the best way we can. But we still have a lot of open-ended questions that we're hoping to get through this process. I mean, I just got an email here from Matt Storch. She said, which I would definitely agree with him on this one. If you guys are thinking about the PPP loan, I would start, if you have, hopefully you own your business, if you're not renting, but if you have a relationship with a lender and your banks that you work with, I would reach out to them today to find out what they know about these loans and what they're hearing. Are they going to be a 7A provider of these loans / forgiveness program? To start the process, start that conversation now, and see where that kind of leads you. Obviously, we'll continue to get you the information, but the best relationship is not our relationship with the lenders, it's your relationship with your lender. And it seems like they're going to be the ones, but finding out from them the process, and then hopefully they get you the information when they get it of how to do the process. So great question. Great comment, Matt. Thank you. The next slide here is just talking about our association efforts. I can't stress enough, Nicole here is on the call, but what Nicole is doing and constantly doing to help us as an association, even before we started this crisis. But right now, I just commend Nicole and her efforts and her constant communication with the governor's office and legislative leaders. A lot of the things that we've been able to make happen would not be without Nicole's efforts and what we're doing. So I really commend Nicole with that. We actually have, we also have hired Brian Duran as our PR person. Brian's actually not even on the call, but Brian's used to work in the governor's office way back when and before, and he has a great background and sense, and has helped us with our communication process, our letters. We're working on an op-ed right now on sales tax, just trying to continue to stay in the media, stay relevant, talking about the dire situation you guys are all in. But I really commend Nicole and her efforts, obviously, and Brian. Words can't express to Ryan O'Donnell and Bill Clark and some of these other folks that are our vendors and our allied members and our endorsed partners that are going above and beyond to help each of you guys, whether you're a member or not, during this time. So just talking through those efforts that we're doing. So we have sent out 2 letters to the governor. We sent out one back on, I believe, the 14th of March. We sent one out this past Saturday. Our Saturday letter went into an action alert. I commend all of you guys that took advantage of that. We broke records with our action alert. We had over 1,200. As of last night, we had over 1,200 advocates, over 3,800 emails. So over 1,200 emails went to the governor with our 4 specific asks of the governor and what we think the state can do right now. We're going to continue to stay on that. My media outreach and the stories and the op-eds that we're working on are going to continue to drive home that messaging. And we're not going to stop here today or through the weekend. I know there's going to be a couple other stories hopefully hitting today, really trying to tell your story, your restaurant story. I would recommend, if any of you guys have an interest and want to talk to the media or have a relationship, I'm happy to help. I'm happy to help with messaging, Brian as well. But obviously coming from you and the situation that you're in specifically really tells the full scope of what's going on. I think the whole takeout, carry out piece is very frustrating to me. Obviously, you guys are staying open as a necessity to keep a couple people on staff and to support your community. On average, takeout sales to delivery sales is about 10% of your business. I understand that, and I want to make sure the media and the governor's office does as well. So the last thing I'll add with is the operational survey. We will resend the link if you haven't done it. It's a survey we put together that I need each of you guys as an owner operator to fill out. It gives us a sense of where you are currently in your business. Some of the facts that have come out, I think we had 150 people fill out the survey. Over 75% have seen a decrease in sales of more than 70%. Over 50% have seen a decrease in sales over 90%. You know, you guys have laid off over 65 to 70% of your employees, if sometimes, you know, obviously more. We've asked, you know, what in that survey we asked you, what is the most important thing the state could do right now? Obviously the sales tax piece and grants, not so much loans, is your top two asks. So please fill out that survey that you've seen in our email. We'll resend it to you, but it just helps us in our messaging to legislators, helps us in my messaging to media as we go forward to try to kind of help you guys through that process. And then the only other thing that we are working on as an association, I know it's not going to help specifically the employers, but following suit with California, Rhode Island, Delaware, some of these other states, we are working to launch an employee emergency assistance fund that we are going to hopefully be live with some point early next week. Just working with some of our supporters right now that have reached out that want to support. What it will be, it'll be a grant hardship waiver program for our restaurant employees that are in the most need. I also want to commend, I know Dave Rutigliano here is on the call, but our other board member, Billy DeSilva, I don't know if Billy's on the call, but they reached out to me yesterday, and the brewery they have, they're going to partner together with Armada Brewing as well, and they're actually going to create a beer that all the proceeds from the beer sales will go to this fund. So I commend Bill and Dave for that and reaching out to us. But obviously there's others as well that have reached out for support. It's just another piece to what we feel we want to try to do and take care of our people, take care of our employees. So we're going to continue to try to launch that fund, hopefully within the next couple of days, and you guys will receive more information on that. But I commend Jennifer as well as Yvette and Emily for my staff for all that they are doing, but this idea and trying to drive this home. So, all right, so that's really the update I have here on the call for everybody's slides. I want to look back through on some of the questions that are here. I emailed my bank early today. Yep, go ahead. Go
I just
Uh-huh.
ahead.
want to kind of reiterate a few of the things Scott has said. What we've been hearing most from members and what we're trying to convince the administration to do is on the sales tax issue, whether it's a deferral or it is complete forgiveness. And folks have also asked us to get an extension for your credit for your liquor companies, for the beer and wine and spirits distributors. Both of those groups have sent letters of support for that to the governor's office, that they would support on-premise locations, pushing back your time to pay. There's obviously many other issues that we're talking to legislative leaders in the governor's office about, as I could see them coming in on all these questions. As we get information, we'll be sure to share it right away. If you are finding yourselves seeing legislators or talking to them, you know, mention these major items, the sales tax issue, and pushing back the time you have to pay the liquor bills. And we're going to just continue to pound the pavement with them on these issues and hope to have answers for you soon.
Thanks, Nicole. Yvette, I guess I know that I've seen some of the questions come in. I don't know if you've gotten specific questions, or Jennifer and Emily, they're want to try to answer some of the questions that have come to the side here on the chat. Are there any other questions I'm missing?
Yeah, Scott, I'll go over a few, and I apologize. You might have answered some of these during your presentation because I did lose internet for about 10 minutes or so. Some of these are maybe a little bit more than what we can answer today. So I think we'll also loop back with some of our allied members and endorsed partners to see if we can share their information as a resource to get some of these questions answered that just kind of goes beyond what we can answer on this call. But there were a couple questions about the loans and if they are forgivable.
The only loan, and we use the word loan lightly, the only potential loan that we've seen that has an opportunity to be forgiven is what this future PPP loan or 7A SBA loan that is coming through this, that was passed in the Senate. So the disaster, the SBA disaster loans are loans, and the bridge loans from Connecticut are loans. Neither, obviously there's zero interest. The SBA disaster loans are 3.75, but the only excuse me, the only thing that could potentially be forgiven through this process is the Paycheck Protection Program loans that we're trying to learn more about.
Scott, is there also any, as far as repayment expectations for the DECD loans, a time frame of when that repayment expectation is?
Sure. The time frame they put out was 12 months, and you can ask for an extension of 6 additional months as well through that payment process. And obviously, you can pay it sooner than that as well. But yeah, it's a 12-month loan base with an extension opportunity for an additional 6.
And just touch again on, I know we've gotten some feedback on some of these loans that are available and how it might not work out for everybody's business and the potential availability of grants.
Yeah, I think, I can tell you right now that was one of our, and I'll let Nicole kind of chime in as well. I mean, we've still been pushing in my messaging to the media yesterday, as well as in Nicole's and myself to legislative leaders of the governor's office is, while we applaud the efforts of these bridge loans, that really is, not enough for you as restaurants to be able to manage. And, we don't even have all the answers on the federal side yet of how that could even help you or impact you. And that's why, whether it's sales tax grants, what else can they do? Because it is a dire situation that you guys are all facing right now, and they need to help you. You need injections of things now, and the risk with loans and how that's going to play out. So obviously, Nicole, is there anything else like chiming in? I mean, obviously we're asking, but there's nothing that's come up to be talked about from a grant side yet.
Correct. The only thing that's been announced and is in the process are the loans from DECD. We do expect an additional stimulus package of some kind that perhaps might be done through the governor through executive order and also through an act of the legislature. Dave might be able to add more to that, but I don't know that there's a time frame yet or what might be in that package.
Thanks, Nicole. Other questions, Yvette?
Scott, I have one more. There was one asking about estimated tax payments. What about calculations for 2020 tax estimated payments? Will they still require them based on the previous tax year? And those will be deferred to July 15th.
I saw that question as well. I do not have an answer to that question. I don't know if Bill Clark or Jason Hirth are on the call here, but we will get an answer for that question and back to the group. I think we might have lost Yvette for the time being. I'm just going to go through some of the other questions. Will there be asking about the extension on the 6 months? Someone asked, Juliana asked if it's supposed to be a balloon payment. I need to look into that from DECD, Juliana, if you were to get that loan and how that's going to be impacted. So I'll try to get, obviously they put together like a one-sheeter on their website, but trying to get all the details of that process, and we'll be sure to share with you as we go. Someone asked about covering unemployment and on the federal portion. Again, I know where unemployment stands in our state right now. Obviously, a big part of the stimulus package is to put money into the unemployment funds of the state. But again, the logistics around it, there's talk about additional money that'll be boosted from federal on top of it. All those questions, as you guys watch the national news and everything else, nothing's definitive yet until it passes, and we can go through that bill, the signed bill, and how that affects. But I know that the federal injection would come to try to help offset the unemployment piece. But also, their other parameter is these PPP loans. They're hoping to take people off unemployment and put them back on the payroll that you would be forgiven without having to manage these. I think there's over 3 million people as of late last night that are on unemployment now across the country. And that number continues to grow every day.
Scott, there was one more asking if owners could take unemployment.
Yeah, so I tried to answer that before. If you're self-employed, I know that through this, I don't know if it's available yet, but I know that was talked about in the Senate stimulus plan of what's going to unemployment for the states. I believe, and I know Ryan, I think, agreed with me that self-employed, if you're self-employed, you'll be able to have an opportunity to go after that as well. Ryan, am I correct again in that?
Yep. Yes, sir.
But still, that is not definitive yet, because obviously that bill has to pass and the details of all of it need to be shared and how that process would work. So I believe if you tried to apply as self-employed right now, unfortunately, you probably would be denied because that has not gone through yet.
Scott, we just had a couple more questions come in on
Sure.
the side, new ones. What would be the proper wording to address our employees who are laid off that would not be providing this paid sick leave to? Do they need to be notified at all?
Ryan, do you want to take a stab at that one?
I'm sorry, Yvette, could you repeat that?
Sorry, Yvette lost her connection.
Oh,
So this
sorry.
is Jennifer. That's
Jennifer.
okay. What would be the proper wording to address our employees who are laid off that we would not be providing this paid sick leave? Are we understanding that correctly? Do they need to be notified?
They don't need to, I mean, folks who are laid off are laid off. You don't need to notify them. If they ask about it, you can simply say that that law goes into effect on April 1st and therefore is only applicable to employees still with the organization as of April 1st.
Thank you, Ryan.
Then will the unemployment claims due to COVID-19 be held against us when that comes to our percentage participation in the unemployment fund? I think that was sort of addressed.
Yeah, that's a constant conversation we are having, not only at a state level, but we're having through the National Restaurant Association. Again, you guys weren't forced, you were forced to close and forced to lay people off. You were not just doing it out of your own will. And that should come into play with those merit ratings down the road. Obviously, we're trying to get you guys, as much money and cash to be able to stay open and deal with those issues, but they will continue to stay in this process and they've been talked about. And I could promise you from, our US senators all the way, to our governor that they're made very aware of it and hoping to help us through this process as we get through it.
Then one more question, any more guidance on filling out the budget for the DECD loan? Those numbers coming from 3 months of business, since that's what the loan will cover.
Good question. I think if there's specific questions on that, I don't have Bill Clark on this call from an accounting side that can help us answer these specific questions on applying an application process. And I want to make sure I get accurate information. I don't want to share how you should look at it and do it, but I will follow back up and make sure you reach out to us through email. We'll hold these questions as well to try to get back to you. And I'll just try to take the other. I know there's another question about if you're not on salary, are you still, but you took maybe a draw or way how you run your business. I don't know the answer to that question yet on an unemployment piece. That's something that we are still waiting to get more of the details of what self-employed definitions are. And we hope to get those to you guys soon. I know Giuliani asked that question.
Has there been any discussion on restaurant employees getting hazard pay?
There has not, at least from myself or talk through it. Nicole, have you heard this at all? I don't know if Nicole's still there.
I'm here and I have not.
Hey, Scott, it's Ryan. There might be some OSHA issues, but it will be a pretty strong or pretty high bar for what constitutes putting themselves in danger. I can't really imagine a scenario that would come up at a restaurant where folks are putting themselves in danger. There's obviously steps that you can take if you were forcing employees perhaps to not wear gloves or something because you didn't want to scare customers. I could see that as a possible issue, but generally speaking, it would have to be a pretty egregious error at a restaurant to bring OSHA into the picture.
Thank you, Ryan. So I guess, I feel like we could be on here for a couple hours today answering questions, and I value, thank you, Nicole and Ryan here on the side that have been trying to fast and furious answer your guys' questions. Again, please know that, we're trying to get you guys the information as it becomes available to us as quickly as we can. I apologize, I wasn't able to answer every single question on this webinar. I can promise you this won't be the last webinar that we continue to provide from the CRA, because I think there is some value for you guys here on the call and everything else. The one thing I would ask of all of you guys is just continue to use us as a resource. If you go to the next slide, Jennifer, it just has all of our contact information on our emails. We're trying to work as hard as we can to get back in touch with you guys, but and use our other media platforms, whether it's Facebook group or our email blast or whatever else you need to try to get that information. If you have specific questions, I want to be able to be there to answer. I know some of you guys are getting ready to jump off. I want to end with the fact that I want to thank you guys for, during this time. I can't even imagine, what each of you guys are going through. I'm trying to be as supportive as I can for you. Any questions, anything you guys need, we are here for you. And I look forward to hopefully getting us through this, finding these opportunities for loan forgiveness and opportunities to have you guys reopen and get us through this. And, we'll continue to work as hard as we can as an association to support our restaurants in our state and that messaging. So thank you guys again for the time, and please don't hesitate to reach out if you need something from us.